Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo 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 Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskrityam.
Narayanam Namaskrityam.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Devim Sarasatim Vyasam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jayamudhiraya. Nashtaprayeshu Vabhadreshu.
Nashtaprayeshu Vabhadreshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke.
Bhagavate Uttama Shloke.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki.
Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki.
Are we allowing videos? Are we allowing people to take videos?
This is
Zoom link.
Zoom link.
Simply?
Yeah, it's not YouTube.
Okay. So this morning we're going to speak about the importance of chanting the holy name. Of course, chanting the holy name is our main business as devotees. Mahaprabhu was asked how to, well, first of all, he'd been approached by devotees. One devotee, Satyaraj Khan, had approached him and said, you know, I'm in family life, I'm very fallen, how can I make advancement? So Mahaprabhu replied that you should chant the holy name constantly and serve the Vaishnavas. So then he asked how to recognize a Vaishnava. And then Mahaprabhu explained, first of all, that anyone who chants the holy name even one time should be considered a Vaishnava, a devotee. And so that was the first response from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that he said anyone who chants even one time, they can be considered a devotee. But then the next year he came back again and asked the same question, and this time Mahaprabhu said, anyone who regularly chants the holy name, then they're considered a Vaishnava, a devotee. And then the following year, again the same situation came, and this time Mahaprabhu replied that that person, simply by seeing him, makes others chant the holy name. He's considered a Vaishnava. So Mahaprabhu in this way was explaining how there are different levels of devotees, and the level of the devotee can be understood by their chanting of the holy name. Our spiritual progress in Krishna consciousness depends on how well we chant the holy name, how much attention we put into chanting the holy name. Mahaprabhu described somebody's just began to chant. They're a neophyte devotee, they've just began. Someone else is chanting regularly. So they're more serious. They've maybe taken initiation, they made a vow to chant. And someone else, they're so elevated that just by seeing them, it makes other people chant the holy name. So there are different levels of devotees, in the same way there are different levels of chanting the holy name. We know there is Namaparad, there is Namabhas, and there is Shuddhanam, the three levels in chanting the holy name. In the same way there are different levels of devotees, not necessarily according to the quality of their chanting. Usually when we speak about Kanishta, Madhyam and Uttama, it's more in relation to their faith and their knowledge of the scripture. But today we're speaking about the chanting of the holy name. Now, an interesting point to note about chanting the holy name is that when we take spiritual initiation, at the time of Diksha, then the vow is to chant 16 rounds every day. There's no vow about joining in the Sankirtan. There's no vow about taking part in kirtan or going to arti or anything. The vow is that I will chant a minimum of 16 rounds every day. And those 16 rounds should be chanted, taking care to avoid offenses. Of course, that makes a difference in the quality of our chanting.
Recording in progress.
The quality of our chanting depends on how well we avoid offenses. And the main offense in chanting the holy name, the seed of all offenses in chanting the holy name, is inattention. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has described this, that the seed of offensive chanting comes from inattentive chanting. So it's very impressive to see that so many of you have come here this morning to dedicate some 3 hours or 4 hours to the chanting of the holy name. It's very nice to see. Of course, we need to do this regularly. We need to chant the holy name regularly. The benefit of coming together in this place is that there's less distraction. At other places, there's a lot of distraction. You know, especially nowadays, people have these mobile phones, which are a great disturbance everywhere, especially when we try to have Katha and do chanting of the holy name. People are so attached to the mobile phone, and one hand is the phone, the other hand is the bead bag. Where is the consciousness? Is the consciousness on hearing the holy name, or is the consciousness on the mobile phone? Usually the consciousness is on the mobile phone. We're indifferent to the holy name. We don't give it a lot of importance. That's what happens. We're easily distracted from the holy name. It's not easy to give our full concentration on the holy name. But that is what is required if we're going to do proper chanting. So it's encouraged, it's proper for us to find out the ways and the means to avoid the distractions so that we can fully concentrate on the holy name. And you can do solutions to this, not difficult. If we're serious, if we really have that desire to want to improve the quality of our chanting, we can do it. We just have to really want to do it, and Krishna will give us the intelligence to do these kind of things. One person I knew, he was getting distracted by computers, different things like that. As well as mobile phones, computers, and television. These things are always a distraction. You have to therefore put them aside when you want to come to do serious chanting. You want to sit and chant the holy name, we have to get away from the distractions. And the best place to chant the holy name is where you have the deities, to come in front of the deities. Another time, Srila Prabhupada had us take a photograph of him. He had Tulsi. And he said, this is all we need, Tulsi and the holy name. and you can sit and chant, just like Haridas Thakur was chanting 3 lakh names every day. He would chant with Tulsi. Haridas Thakur didn't have deities or anything. He was chanting, but he was chanting with Tulsi Maharani. So Tulsi Maharani is very wonderful. You can sit in front of Tulsi and chant the holy name. I'm very happy to see such a nice Tulsi tree here. Tulsi, she likes this climate, I think. This Muscat climate is like Vrindavan, dry, more dry. So it's very suitable for Tulsi to grow very nicely. So every one of you can have the Tulsi tree and keep Tulsi and chant the holy name with Tulsi Maharani. So chanting the holy name is very important for our spiritual progress. People will often ask us, what about the mind? What to do with the mind? When Srila Prabhupada was asked this question, Prabhupada said, it's not a question of the mind. He said, you use your tongue to chant and your ears to hear. It's that simple. You use the tongue. You must vibrate the tongue. Now sometimes we see people chanting and the lips don't move. The lips don't move and we don't hear anything coming from them. And we say, are you chanting? I'm chanting, I'm chanting. They'll say, yes, I'm chanting, but we don't hear anything and we don't see the lips move. So we want, where are you chanting? So we should understand, we're not encouraged to try to do manasa japa. That's a very, very elevated stage of chanting the holy name, to do chanting in the mind. Because our minds are very erratic. And we know from the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna had said, Chanchala himana Krishna. Right? My mind is restless, more turbulent and obstinate than the wind, more difficult to control than the wind. So trying to chant in the mind is not the process. And we see Srila Prabhupada, we didn't see him chanting in the mind. We can hear Prabhupada's chanting. We have many recordings of Prabhupada chanting Hare Krishna. And you can hear very clearly how he chants. So we follow the example given to us by Srila Prabhupada, and we understand that this is how all the acharyas also chanted. So we chant with the tongue. Of course, Prabhupada also writes that the difference between japa and kirtan is that when we chant japa, we chant to hear ourselves. It's not that you have to chant so loud that everybody in the room hears you, but at least we should be able to hear the holy name. The holy name should enter into our ears. We need to hear. Right? Hearing. Lord Chaitanya always stressed the importance of hearing. So when we come to chant japa also, we need to hear. It's an exercise for us. And the mind is, of course, contemplating so many other things. We have to bring it to focus on the holy name. And if we're chanting and actually hearing, then the mind will not be thinking about what time is breakfast and what we're going to cook today and what about my children and so many other things which we have going on in the mind. We have to put these things aside and just simply hear, concentrate on hearing the mantra and chanting using the tongue. So pronunciation is important. Pronunciation. We have pronounce the syllables of the mantra. Hare Krishna Rama. We are chanting the holy name like that. We want to pronounce the syllables. You have to hear, and we want to also. We have to practice. And position is also important. You want to sit in a position in which you are comfortable and you're not going to go to sleep. You know, some people do have the habit that when they sit and chant, what happens first, the head goes down, and then the back, and then they slump and they go into deep sleep, you know. Not samadhi exactly, but some kind of sleep. So, I mean, this was something we experienced in the beginning of our movement. It was quite a common thing when we first became devotees, that we were not able to concentrate very well, and we would sit and we would go to, you know, the head goes down. So when you sit, if you're going to sit and chant, then you have to sit straight. Jiva Goswami mentions, and Prabhupada quotes him in the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that when you chant, and if you're going to sit, then sit like a yogi, sit straight, right? Keep the back up straight. That's the key to avoid that lethargy and drowsiness. As soon as the back bends, the head goes down, the back bends, then the drowsiness comes. But if you sit up straight and keep the head up, you won't fall asleep. Prabhupada would be giving class sometimes and he would say, "Don't sleep." And devotee would sometimes argue, "Prabhupada, I'm not sleeping." And Prabhupada would argue back and say, "If your eyes are closed and you're not moving, you must be asleep." So you could not defeat Prabhupada in argument, you know. And so similarly with our japa, if our eyes are closed and we're not moving, the lips are not moving, you must be asleep. So we have to be careful to avoid drowsiness in chanting the Mahamantra. It's our most important business. One of our very nice devotees, he was leading the Sankirtan movement in Srila Prabhupada's time. And he was encouraging the devotees greatly around the world in distributing Prabhupada's literature. So he had a saying, he would say that we're training our gladiators to conquer the mind in the arena of japa. An interesting statement, right? Gladiators, the Roman gladiators, they could fight lions, they'd go with a sword and shield and they would fight ferocious beasts. So gladiators, he was talking about our book distributors, that they would go out and distribute books in areas full of maya. They'd go into the nasty airports and places, bus terminals and places where people were really passionate and aggressive, and they would go out there and distribute Prabhupada's books. So how did they get the strength to go out there and confront the material energy and fight Maya? They got it in chanting japa, in the arena of japa. That's where you get the spiritual strength. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is describing about the enemy, lust. How lust is the all-devouring enemy, unconquerable, never satisfied, burns like fire. And Lord Krishna goes on to describe how to conquer lust. He said, by spiritual strength. we can conquer the enemy lust. And we get that spiritual strength the more we're associating with Lord Krishna. And we're associating with Lord Krishna when we chant the holy name. So this is very important for us to understand. I was explaining yesterday.
Hare Krishna, may I request devotees to kindly keep your phones on silent. The next ring we will definitely confiscate the phone. Very offensive.
So, I was explaining yesterday, I'll say it again because it's an important point.
Make sure I understand. Are you saying for the next ringing virgin?
Go to the back.
So I was explaining to the devotees yesterday, Prabhupada asked one of his senior devotees to give a lecture about the chanting of the holy name. Srila Prabhupada was going to give initiation. So the devotee said in his lecture that Lord Krishna is in his name. But Srila Prabhupada was sitting there listening, and Srila Prabhupada immediately interrupted and said, it's not that Krishna is in his name, he said Krishna is his name. So there's a distinction there. If we say Krishna is in his name, the name is different from Krishna. But Prabhupada was making it very clear that the holy name and Lord Krishna are one and the same thing. They're not different. And this is also mentioned, of course, in the verse which is there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita describing the holy name. Nam Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddho Nityamukto Binatnam Nama Namino. So Binatnam Nama Namino, the holy name of Lord Krishna is not different from Lord Krishna. So, and we also say Kali Kale Namarupe Krishna Avatar. In the Kali Yuga, Lord Krishna comes in the form of the holy name. So we have to understand that when we chant japa, we're actually having the direct association with Lord Krishna. It's an opportunity for us to be with Lord Krishna. And we have to associate very carefully. We want to give our full attention to the chanting of the holy name. And how can we improve the quality of our chanting? By practice, like everything else. Lord Krishna also told Arjuna, it's very difficult to conquer the mind, but Lord Krishna said, Asamshayam Mahabaho Manu Durnegraham Chalam Abhyasena Chukontiya Vairagyena Chagriyate. So to conquer the mind is certainly difficult, but abhyas, by practice. You have to practice. Practice makes perfect. Right? You want to do anything, you practice. You want to drive your car, you practice. You want to be a good cook, Prabhupada said, practice. If you practice cooking, gradually your cooking will improve. And similarly, chanting the holy name, it requires practice. And also vairag, detachment. We have to let go of the material, let go of all of our material desires. Chanting the holy name is not a time to think about all your material desires, but it's a time to absorb ourselves in remembering Krishna, particularly his holy name. So if we try to hold on to the material world and at the same time chant, then it doesn't work. It's like having your one foot in one boat and one foot in another boat. You know, you're in trouble. The boats are going to separate. So similarly, we are holding on to the material world and at the same time calling out to Krishna. It doesn't work. We have to let go of the material energy. So that's why I say, if we can somehow put aside the things which are so important to us, like our mobile phone, our computer. Sometimes you're chanting at home and there's so many things going to distract you. Oh, look, there's my child's school book. Oh, there's my child's clothes. Oh, so many different things are going to come up in the mind. You have to really focus. You have to somehow bring the mind to think of Krishna. So having the deities here, having Tulsi here, these two things, they certainly help us to concentrate more on the chanting of the holy name. And chanting, as I said, requires practice. In the Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami has given us some valuable advice about the chanting of the holy name. First of all, he explains about different devotees, how some devotee is began to chant the holy name, someone else has undergone spiritual initiation and is worshipping the deity, and someone else is fixed in undeviating devotional service and is free from the propensity to criticize others. And then Rupa Goswami goes on to talk about the chanting of the holy name. And he explains that the holy name, along with the Lord's form, qualities and pastimes, that they're all non-different. So Nam, Rup, Guna and Lila, these things, they're all contained within the holy name. And when we chant the holy name properly, then remembrance of Lord Krishna will naturally come. We'll remember the form, and that's helped by seeing the deity, and we'll think of the qualities, and we may even remember some pastimes of the Lord. But the main attention in our neophyte stage is more to simply hear the name, focus fully on the name of the Lord. And people say, how to chant, I don't have taste. So Rupa Goswami says, why we don't have taste, and he gives an example about someone with jaundice, the jaundice of avidya, right? Avidya is another kind of jaundice. I had the experience myself. I went to India in the 1970s. Srila Prabhupada wanted us to come to India and help to establish the Krishna consciousness movement there in India. I joined in London. I'd connected to the Krishna conscious movement in London. And at that time, it was difficult for American people to get visas to go to India. But we were a number of young men in London, and when Prabhupada came to London and saw all the young men there, he said, some of you men should all come to India. We need you in India to develop our centers, because at that time, there were only a few centers, and the Indian people had not really taken up the Krishna consciousness movement at that time. We were very new, and they were looking at us, and they didn't really trust us. They didn't know what we were, if we were genuine or what. And so they had not joined. So Prabhupada asked us to come from England to India, because at that time, British people did not even need a visa to come to India. So I was there, I came to Delhi in 1975. At that time we had a tiny house in Bengali Market, and Todarmal Lane there in Bengali Market, if you know that. Anyway, it was the only center in Delhi, and we were only half a dozen devotees. and we had Radha Parthasarati there. And I came in the summer from England. You know, England's always wet and cold. And I came to India, and it's April, May, just started to get really hot. Very hot. And there was no mineral water in those days also. So I got jaundice. And so, not surprising, you know, I got jaundice. I drank some water which maybe hadn't been properly boiled. Anyway, when I got jaundice, I didn't know what to do. The doctor said, no, there's no medicine, just take rest. But someone else told me, you drink sugar cane juice. It's very good. He said, will help your liver to get better. So I was happy. I thought, that sounds nice. I like sugar cane juice. So I got a big glass, but when I tasted it, it tasted so bitter. And I thought maybe something's wrong with the sugar cane. But they said, no, the problem is with your liver. Because of your liver, it tastes bitter. So the holy name is like that. Because of the unhealthy condition of our mind, that we don't taste the nectar of the holy name. I could not taste the nectar of the sugarcane juice because of my jaundice. The liver was not functioning. What was the cure? He said, you keep drinking it. He said, that sugarcane juice is the medicine, and that will cure you. You keep drinking it and you'll get better. So, you know, it didn't sound very nice. I thought, horrible taste, you know. He said, no, you have to drink it. It will get you better quick. Anyway, I did it and I got better. And so the same is true with the holy name, chanting the holy name. That we don't have a taste, we're not relishing the holy name. But if we keep chanting, and you keep chanting, then gradually, our jaundice of ignorance, of avidya, will be cured. We have to associate more with the holy name. Of course, we don't like the bitter medicine, but that bitter medicine is due to our unhealthy condition. It's our problem, it's not the holy name. The holy name is full of nectar. Rupa Goswami has composed a beautiful verse describing the holy name. He says, when I chant the holy name, I wish I had thousands of tongues to chant. One tongue is not enough. There's so much nectar in these two syllables, Krishna. When I chant the holy name, I wish I had many tongues to chant. And when the holy name enters my ears, then I wish I had many ears to hear the holy name. And when the holy name enters into my heart, then it conquers the mind's desires. And all my senses become powerless or inert. So this is the nectar of the holy name. Someone like Rupa Goswami, he's tasting the nectar of the holy name. And he's describing it to us in this beautiful verse. We want to come to that level of tasting the nectar of the holy name. But we are still in the disease condition. We're still struggling with our mind and senses. We have to practice regular, faithful chanting of the holy name. Now Mahaprabhu has said, Kirtaniya Sadahari, always chant the holy name. There are no hard and fast rules in chanting though. You can chant any time, throughout the day and night. Of course, we have to take advantage of the auspicious times. Sometimes are easier to chant than others. Just like You know, if you've had a hard day in the office and you come home at night, you know, you could be a bit worn out. It can be a little difficult to chant. You come home at night and then you're faced with the home problems, the family problems and the children, and you left so many problems at work and you come home at night to more problems, then it's a little difficult to chant. But if we chant in the morning is usually a good time to chant. And there's an auspicious period in the day also, which we call Brahma Muhurta. Maybe it's a bit early for you here in this part of the world, but at least in India, we take advantage of Brahma Muhurta for spiritual practice. Brahma Muhurta means 1.5 hours before sunrise. So you'll notice the temples in India, they have the Mangal Arti 4:30, early morning. The Muslim people, they also pray early in the morning. The Buddhist monks, they also get up early in the morning, do their meditation. And even the Christians, they also have early morning mass. Of course, chanting the holy name is very merciful. There are no rules about this, but we should know there are some times which are easier to chant, and you can get a good start to the day by chanting earlier in the morning. Waking up a little earlier and chanting, it's a very good way to begin the day. You get the strength to go through the day and to fight all the Maya, right? Just like I was saying, we're training our gladiators to conquer the mind in the arena of japa. So in the temple, in our temples, in the ISKCON temples, we have our japa period, which is generally after Mangal Arti up until about 7:30 or even 8 o'clock, like that, we will have japa, a good time, early in the morning. Get it done first, the first things first. Good way to start the day, to do some japa. Now how much time you're able to give to japa, that's up to every individual, but try to get some time to begin the day with some chanting of the holy name. It's very helpful to do like that. Because you have so many other things to do, but if you start the day nicely, chanting, we get good sadhana done, then someone was asking me, how can I do good sadhana in the office? I said, well, you do the good sadhana at home before you go to the office. Right? Once you go to the office, you know, you forget your sadhana, you know. But if you're supposed to do sadhana before you go to the office, then you can function in the office. If you've got a good sadhana, it will give you that strength, that spiritual strength to control the mind, which is so important in chanting the holy name. So, chanting the holy name, sometimes Srila Prabhupada would say, loud chanting of the holy name is very good. He said, loud chanting, the louder you chant, the more powerful it becomes. So how loud can we chant? Of course, we have to consider other people. But it's certainly nice to be able to chant a little louder. And you can also go out for a walk and chant. It's not that you have to sit. You can go out and walk. And Baladeva Vidyabhusan, he said like that in one of his purports on Bhagavad Gita. He said that you can get exercise. You go out for a walk in the morning and chant. And Srila Prabhupada, every morning he liked to go on a walk. A doctor actually told him, Swamiji, you need to go for a walk in the morning. So Prabhupada took it seriously. Every morning he would go out on a walk. And we would often walk with him. Sometimes he would chant, sometimes he would talk to us. But every morning he had that program. He would go for a walk and he would come back and greet the deities, and then he would give Bhagavatam class. And in this way, he was showing us how to use our time nicely in Krishna's service. So chanting of the holy name, it's a practice. We have to dedicate ourselves to this chanting of the holy name. And when we take initiation, of course it's required that we've already been chanting the holy name, and we've already come up to minimum of 16 rounds. And 16 rounds being minimum. Often nowadays our devotees will have a japa marathon, and they will chant 64 rounds. And so devotees, they like to do like that. They get the devotees together for a few days. They'll have seminars and classes, and then at the end of it, they'll have a japa marathon, and everyone will sit and chant 64 rounds. And some people do it very quickly, and others take longer. There are no rules. Some people chant slowly, some chant more fast. It's Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, generally he would chant a little slower. That's not important. It's up to every individual. But Prabhupada did give a standard number of rounds, and he expected us to chant usually about 2 hours in the day. One time there was one devotee, he said to his guru he was a disciple of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami, and he said, Gurudev, I can chant my rounds in 1.5 hours. And sometimes even I can chant in 1 hour. And his guru said, then you chant for 2 hours. He said, if you're chanting so quickly, he said, I want you to sit and chant the holy name for at least 2 hours. I don't want you saying you finish your 16 rounds in 1 hour. You spend at least 2 hours chanting the holy name. And another time, there was one lady residing in the temple. This was in the USA. So Srila Prabhupada came there, and so he asked the temple president, he said, what service does this lady do in the temple? And the temple president said, Srila Prabhupada said, Srila Prabhupada, she doesn't do any service. It takes her the whole day to chant Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada said, oh no, that is not good. She must do some service. So in the same way we should understand that Srila Prabhupada expects us to chant the holy name, and at the same time he also expects us to do service for Lord Krishna. Service is also important, and that helps us to get more taste for chanting the holy name. So we should understand how to balance these two things. On one side, chanting of the holy name is there, and on the other side, service is also there. Service is also important. We need devotees to do things. If everyone said, oh no, I'm chanting the holy name, I can't cook. Oh, I'm chanting the holy name, I can't clean. Nothing gets done. Everyone just sits and chants. And of course, this is one reason why Buddhism failed. Because the Buddhist process, their process was meditation. And everyone would just go into meditation. No one would do anything. Everyone just sat, and they were all in meditation. Nothing got done. The fields didn't get plowed, nothing got done. Animals didn't get fed, so it didn't work. And this is one reason why Buddhism was rejected from India, and the Vedic culture was brought back. So chanting of the holy names is very important for us. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was chanting the holy name. He had his japa beads, he was going everywhere, carrying his japa bag, and at the same time also he would like to do kirtan. Where there was people, he would like to chant the holy name of kirtan, but he was also regularly chanting a fixed number of rounds. And our namacharya was Srila Haridas Thakur, who could chant day and night, 3 lakh names every day for many years. You know, to get us to chant 64 rounds, we do it one day, difficult to do it the next day. One day, I finished, somehow I finished it. But to do it every day, very difficult. So how much more difficult it must have been to do 3 lakh names every day. So Haridas Thakur, of course we say Brahma Haridas, not an ordinary person, very great soul. Anyway, Srila Prabhupada has given us the minimum chanting, 16 rounds, and he said we should try to engage in service the rest of the time. Not that we just become idle. Sometimes we think, I finished my rounds. But we can never really finish our rounds. There's always more to be done. We can always chant more. And certainly on holy days, like Ekadasi, we should chant more. And Srila Prabhupada would have it. In Srila Prabhupada's time, it was customary, we would all chant at least 25 rounds on Ekadasi. Other days it would be 16 rounds, and then we would be out on Sankirtan and distributing Prabhupada's books and going out for preaching and cooking and doing so many services. But 16 rounds was the minimum. We have to do that. So Srila Prabhupada's request was not very difficult, but still we find it challenging. So many people, they don't give the proper time and attention to chanting the holy name. But certainly if we do 16 rounds, if we keep them up, then we can make very good progress. And the sign that we're making progress is we will have more taste for hearing and chanting. We'll have more taste for studying Prabhupada's books and for taking part in devotional activities. It is like that. So the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantras, very important for all of us. We've come here this morning to dedicate our time. So I will stop here now and go ask if there's any question anybody wants to ask.
You were mentioning about the difference between the japa and the kirtan.
Yes.
You spoke about the japa. Could you enlighten us about the kirtan?
Japa and kirtan. I said, well, japa, when we chant the holy name, we should hear it ourselves. Not that everybody else has to hear our chanting. But kirtan, that's loud chanting, that's for the mass of people, giving the holy name to everyone. Prabhupada, one time the devotees were out on Harinam in Boston, and there's a big park in the center of Boston. It's called the Common Land. So the devotees were all out there one day, and they did Sankirtan, and they took a beautiful picture. All the devotees were out there in their robes. In those days, you know, we had the BBT office there in Boston, and all the devotees were dressed. The ladies were all in saris, the same color, and all the men, they had the cloth also pretty much the same color. And they'd all shaved, the men had shaved their heads, and everyone looked very effulgent. And they showed the picture to Prabhupada. And they said, Prabhupada, look, he said, everyone is so effulgent, it's such a nice picture. He said, they're all on Harinam and they're all glowing and so happy. Prabhupada said, yes. He said, this is Sankirtan. He said, it's like the machine gun. Machine gun, you know, you shoot everyone, right? He said, everyone gets a mercy. So that is Sankirtan, Kirtan. Everyone is getting the mercy when you're giving the holy name. Japa is individual meditation on the holy name. But Kirtan is coming together with others and chanting the holy name.
Hare Krishna, so we are so grateful to Maharaj for so nicely encouraging all of us by giving so many inputs in how one should chant, why we should chant, the significance of chanting, etc. So we seek Maharaj's blessings that every Saturday morning we want to keep this